What's going on, everybody? This is the drop for August 7th, Friday. Hope everyone's doing all right out there. We have a bunch of new podcasts to tell you about, and we're going to get into it in just a second. I do want to say this week we have so much new stuff coming out, show premieres, show finales, and all kinds of other stuff. The drop is the place where we try to organize all this for you and tell you what's going on so that you all can listen at your leisure and check out everything we have going on. So thank you for joining us. So let's get into it. So first, we have 3 episodes of Comes a Time that are coming out today. So Bob Weir, Melvin Seals, and Mountain Girl, those episodes are all live now. You can watch them on video or listen to the audio versions. The reason all 3 came out at the same time is, as I mentioned yesterday, this is the days between, which in the dead world is a huge celebration. There's a huge days between kind of series going on through 11/11 and others that O'Teal is involved with, along with lots of others. It's a time of celebration of Jerry and of the Grateful Dead. So Bob Weir, Melvin Seals, Mountain Girl, all interviews are live now. The Bob Weir interview alone will blow your mind. He's so smart. He has so many amazing nuggets of wisdom to share, and he has a great conversation with O'Teal and Mike, along with Melvin and Mountain Girl. So those are all live right now, and we're really, again, excited to have them as part of the Osiris family, and hope everyone can listen, subscribe, watch, subscribe, share, and enjoy. All right, number 2. A brand new episode of the Jam Bass podcast featuring Lucinda Williams. So on this episode, Andy Kahn talks to Lucinda about her really good new album, Good Souls, Better Angels, which came out in April. Andy and Lucinda also discussed her songwriting process and how she developed the songs that became this record. They also talked broadly about her work and talked about how she's coping during the pandemic. A lot of these conversations tend to go in that direction. So it's a good conversation. Lucinda Williams, really talented, and I'm glad that Andy got to talk to her. So check that out. The link is in the show notes. All right, number 3, Curtis Blow on the Tapes Archive. So this new episode features a never-before-heard interview with a hip-hop pioneer. At this time of the interview in 1997, Blow was 38 years old and was promoting his 3-CD compilation, The History of Rap. So in the interview, Curtis talks with the host, Mark Allen, about how Don Cornelius, the host of Soul Train, broke his heart, what hip-hop fans should go back and listen to, and how he foresaw big rap music would become. If you don't know, Curtis was the first rapper to sign a major label record contract and had the first certified gold record rap song for hip-hop with The Breaks in 1980. So he was a true pioneer, really on the cutting edge. Really interesting conversation here, as always, on the Tapes Archive. And then finally, number 4, I'm going to play you an interview that I got a chance to do with singer-songwriter Kenny Roby. So he has a new album coming out today called The Reservoir. And we got into depth about that record and about his process and about his past. This album has an interesting story, which we'll get into, which is that it was supposed to be produced by Neil Casal. And the production and recording and everything of this record was supposed to happen about 3 weeks after Neil passed away. And luckily, Dave Schools also was in the loop about this record and ended up producing the album with Kenny. So he talks all about that experience and how it happened. It was a good conversation, and he plays us a live acoustic song at the end. So I'm going to get into that interview now. I hope you stick around to listen to that and to hear Kenny play an acoustic song for us. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate your support, and we will see you back here very soon, probably Monday morning, with a lot of new content. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Peace. All right, I'm here with Kenny Roby. How you doing, man?
Hey, how are you?
Nice to talk to you, and thanks for being willing to chat with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I want to start by asking you a few questions. So you have a new album coming out today, August 7th, called The Reservoir. It's your first album since 2013. That album was Memories and Birds. You've been playing music for a long time. What compelled you to release this album now, 7 years after your last one?
Well, I'd still been writing and recording. My band, Six String Drag, who I played with for a long time in the 90s and put out records with, we got back together in 2014 and did 2 albums and then some reissues of some old ones. So I've still been writing and playing, just not under my name, but still the main writer and singer and frontman, but just under the band name Six String Drag for that time in between. So still writing and still working.
You have so many songs. How it seems like you must be always writing. Are you writing songs like do you write every day?
I go in phases. When I write every day, I don't just write when I'm compelled to necessarily, but like it doesn't just come to me out of nowhere. I mean, I have ideas out of nowhere and little prompts that trigger me into an idea for a song. But I do also sit down and work on stuff. As far as at least try to sit with it and focus on it. Uh, not as much in the last few months, oddly enough. You'd think I would. I have a lot of time, but some a little bit more lately. You know, it fits in starts as far as the output.
I
I do
think it's
on it.
interesting in this crazy time. I've talked to a lot of musicians who have said the same thing. Like they just haven't been writing as much or creating as much new music, and then some have. Some people have been prolifically like putting out songs on Instagram every couple days. It's interesting how that affects people differently, but I think it's just everyone's affected differently by the isolation and the anxiety and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing work, but it's just artistic work, I guess, on
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And reading and writing a little bit, but just not necessarily sitting down writing songs as much. I have been a little more lately, though. I'm kind of inspired to start working on new songs for a new record.
Cool. That's awesome. And did you decide to put this album out before the quarantine started, or was it a decision like in terms of the release of the album, or was it
It
always
was
going to come
supposed
out
to,
around this
it
time?
was supposed to come out in June,
Yeah.
and then we pushed it to today because of yeah, just timing of everything, and we wanted to see what happened with the quarantine and get
Yeah.
things lined up and ready.
Yeah. Well, so I want to ask you about your relationship with Neil Casal because that's a big part of, I think, the story of this album. Can you just tell us about your relationship with him and kind of how you guys got in touch originally and where it went from there?
Well, I met Neil through Gary Waldman, and Gary was Neil's uh, one of his oldest friends in the music business, and since high school. And Gary was Neil's manager since back in the day in the late '80s, early '90s, and um, Gary became Six String Drag's manager when we were on Steve Earle's label back in the mid '90s. So we met through Gary, and of course, we just kind of hit it off. A lot of the same music interests, and just hit it off well, personality-wise, I guess too. And I mean, it's kind of hard not to get along with Neil. I'd be a little harder to get along with, so he was probably irritable.
I think you just mute. Oh, sorry, just muted for a sec. Did you see that?
No, I didn't touch anything. I don't know what
Weird.
happened.
Weird. I can hear you
Um,
now.
anyway, yeah. So we met through Gary in person, stayed in touch some. Did I think we did maybe a few shows, or at least sat in on some shows that the other one was at or playing in, things like that. Had mutual friends there, and he came down to hang out at our record release show for our second record, Hi Hat, and we hung out a lot then. Um, and then him and his ex-wife Christy asked us to play their wedding. So um, that was like in '97, I think. And so we kept in touch over those few years. And he asked, once Six String Drag broke up, I was putting out a record called Mercury's Blues, my first solo record that was coming out on the same label in Europe, Glitter House. And he had done some records with Glitter House, and he asked me to go on the road with him in Europe, opening. He was playing solo, and I was going to open solo. So we did that for 5 weeks in England, Ireland, Scotland, a little bit in France, and just hung out and became buddies,
Awesome.
talking music, and talking smack in the backseat of a touring car for 5 weeks, changing music stories and fandom of different things, and had similar music tastes. So we were kind of both geeking out all the time on different records. Um,
That's
that was
awesome. When was that? That was late 2000s?
that was that was 2000. I mean, not late 2000, late 90s. It was 99.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, 99 was when we went to Europe together. And then when we came back, we did a live duo record called Black River Sides that we recorded near his place in New Jersey, and that came out on Glitter House, and now that's available digitally again.
Cool.
So yeah, and just kept in touch on and off through the years. I mean, we kind of Warren is in touch more in the 2000s. He was moved out to LA and was playing with Ryan and some other folks, and I was here on the East Coast, and in the early to mid 20, like 2003 to 2009, 10. I was really busy with my family, raising my kids and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of out of the biz, so to speak, a little bit too, not touring.
And then you guys, I know that on this album, he was going to produce it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did that start before he passed away, or was that like to be started around that time?
No, it was to be started. As a matter of fact, on the week of the tribute show to him was the week we were supposed to be in the studio making the record.
Okay.
Bizarre. So yeah, it was supposed to be the week of of September 25th.
Crazy. So I was at that tribute show at the Cap in Portchester, and I know that based on what I read, you ended up talking to Dave Schools there, and he had kind of known about this record, and then you kind of picked up the conversation there. Is that how it went?
Well, a little sort of. He had already said he wanted to produce the record, and he agreed to produce the record in Neil's place before. But that was the first time I'd really met him. Was at the Cap, and then we solidified some stuff and just got to know each other a little bit more. And that's where, right after that is when Tony and Jesse jumped on board to be on the record. Tony Leone and Jesse Aycock. But Jeff Hill and John Shannon were already supposed to be on the record. But yeah, Dave and Neil had been exchanging like stuff that they'd been working on and demos of people that they were producing. And so Dave had heard some of the songs, and he agreed to step in as the producer, and we thought it'd be a perfect fit. Have a lot of respect for Dave, and I know Neil did as well, and he was close to Neil, and we hit it off over the phone, and it seemed like it was a good fit, and I liked his take on producing and his ideas for the record, as far as just he basically said, I just want to help you realize your vision and pick up where Neil left off, and just help you kind of take it to the next level and make the best record you can. So he kind of speaks the same language I do with a lot of that stuff. So
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just sort of more solidified. He had already agreed before the Cap thing, but we got a chance to hang out more and get to know each other a little bit better.
And so after that, how did the recording and production go? Did it take on a different life once you guys got in the studio, or was it straightforward?
I mean, I had the basic ideas for the songs. I'd sent the guys demos, but they just listened to them a little bit. I mean, well, I don't know how much they listened to them, but they weren't. I didn't have like super tight arrangements. They're basically acoustics, demos that were, just verse, chorus here. Let's do a solo here. There's a bridge here. Pretty simple, standard, traditional type arrangements for the most part, with a couple hitches here and there. But I was open to things happening and letting people be themselves when we got in there, and letting the songs take on a life of their own to some degree. Some things turned out relatively close to what how I sort of envisioned them, and some things took on a whole different feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, Hey Angelina was supposed to be a little bit more upbeat, a little more Tex-Mex, a little more Doug Somm, Texas Tornadoes vibe to it, and ended up being a little bit more mellow and different kind of groove. Still the same spirit for the most part. And then Silver Moon, actually, I had a real high lonesome kind of Stanley Brothers vibe in my head of it, like more of a bluegrass waltz. And then when we messed around, it just didn't quite feel right when we did it with the band that way. And it was fine, but it just wasn't that, didn't have that thing. And then so we started messing around with it more electric and a little bit more California cosmic country vibe to it, meets Bakersfield. So
Cool. What's like one thing you would say about working with Dave Schools?
Dave is he really made it easy. He was really open to my ideas and our ideas, and he had some ideas, and but he was willing to try things that I wanted to try, and he just kind of trusted me, and I had faith in him that he trusted me and that he knew kind of what I was going for, and and he would also be honest about stuff. I think a lot of things, a really good producer, if you've been doing this a while, especially as an artist, I think a really good producer kind of saves you from yourself sometimes, from overthinking or wanting to fix things that don't need to be fixed. And that was one of the big things Dave said. He's like, no, we're not touching that. It's not just good enough. It's great. And you're going to squeeze it if you get in there and try to mess with it, but he had a good balance, but he also understood process and let us play around with things and didn't sort of get in the way of that either. So he's a very, very balanced producer in my mind.
That's really cool. Well, I got to hear the album, The Reservoir. It's really good. And I know you've been putting out music for a while. How does it feel to have this record out there now?
Oh, it's really great. It's been a while. It's been as far as since the idea for the record came, I've started writing a lot of these songs, besides a few old ones that came out of the past to be on the record. Since late 2018, early 2019. So, and the record was done for the most part in November. So there's been a little lag time. So I'm real happy that it's out, and hopefully people like it and get a little something out of it.
That's cool. And I have to ask, the song Room 125, which I listened to a few times because it was mentioned in the materials I was reading. That's like a particularly kind of isolated song, or a song about being kind of isolated. I'm wondering if any of these songs kind of affect you differently now that we've all been, I don't know, cooped up by ourselves for so long.
Honestly, I don't know if I can go any deeper or more isolated than Room 125. That's a pretty brutal bottom of a song.
Yeah. Do those songs feel different now? Like, would you be less likely to play it or listen to it now than you would be if you were out on the road and kind of in a normal life, do you think?
I think any of them I'd be fine with playing. Room 125, it's like tough because I might just start crying in the middle of it.
Yeah. I almost did too.
That kind of happened in the studio a little bit. It's just like, well, is that the take? Well, it's the one you got through. So, yeah, and that's just a tough one. Well, it's got a lot of words for one thing, and but yeah, it's. That would be a tough one. That one I kind of knew even when we did it. I was like, yeah, this one's not going to get played live too much.
Yeah.
But most of the ones I can handle.
Yeah, well, it's balanced. The album is balanced. I've found, there's a lot of upbeat stuff. It's like you said, there's a lot of different influences. It's not, luckily there's plenty of stuff on there that you will want to play.
Yeah. I got 15 other ones to choose from.
Right. Well, we are going to hear a song from you in a second. What are you most excited about looking toward the future? I like to ask this just because it seems like we don't have a lot to be excited about in this current world. Are there things?
Hugs from my friends and family.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else besides that.
Yeah. And then hopefully playing more music in front of more people.
Playing more music, of course. But we'll take it a step at a time, and we probably shouldn't be playing music too much before we can hug people, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a
Right.
scientist or a doctor. So,
Right.
a
What,
lot of people out there now.
right. When you were, is there anything particular that you were listening to when you were writing these songs? Are there any specific influences that kind of come through to you on this record?
I don't know, just kind of the usual stuff. Neil and I have been, we always loved Bobby Charles. I was kind of back into a Bobby Charles phase for a minute there in the band and stuff like that. And, the usual suspects and Dylan and Doug Somm and all that stuff. And we were both listening to J.J. Cale a bunch around that time. And then, but then again, Neil and I and Dave as well, like all of us love like old school reggae and, 60s and 70s reggae. And Dave's more into dub. And I'm more into the more vocal stuff, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's a bass player. So
yeah. It sounds like you can hear some of that come through in the album, which is cool. And congrats on getting it out there.
Oh, thank you so much.
We're excited to share it with people, and you can stream it. You can order the LP. I'll put the link in the show notes. Kenny, would you be willing to play us a tune?
Sure. I'll give it a shot here.
All right.
Let me see. This is actually Neil's guitar.
Oh, wow. All right.
I stole it from someone. No, it's just on loan. I was all alone there waiting on the porch when whipping the shirts and the flame on the torch. Standing there swagging and I almost got scorched, swooning there under the moon. I thought it was the rain that was licking my neck. Sharp silver tongue couldn't keep her in check. How does a vampire self-reflect 1,000 years looking for you? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Oh. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when a man's got nothing to lose? I gave it all away there late last night. Heart filled with ice and chest got tight. Skin was a sizzling when I woke up in the light. Wasn't a damn thing I could do. I saw the truth in your lipstick case. Love was a splatter all over the place. I could live forever just looking at your face, like all the other blood bags do. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Oh. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when a man's got nothing to lose? Oh, the broken hearts in a big wicker basket. Oh. Just get a task, get the gift of a casket. Oh. The oldest question here and no enough to ask it. Oh. 10,000 more years to study every facet, and there's still more blood that we choose. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Oh. Baby, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when a man's got nothing to lose? Oh, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Oh. Baby, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when a man's got nothing to lose? When that man's got nothing to lose? When your man's got nothing to lose?
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what's that one called?
That's called Vampire Song. What you gonna do?
All right. Awesome. And so everyone should check out The Reservoir. It's coming out today. Kenny, it's been really fun talking to you. Thank you for doing this and for playing us a song.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.